My wife became pregnant by her lover, and I disappeared. Years later, she desperately searched for me. What happened next left me stunned. Betrayal has a price no one imagines. I recently stumbled upon this forum and have been immersed in your stories. The accounts of broken hearts sadden me, but I admit they also brought me some comfort, knowing I am not alone in my situation. I refrained from posting before, because what comfort or advice could I offer when my own marriage crumbled so spectacularly? However, after a conversation with my ex last week, I noticed so many similarities in our stories, common patterns repeated by nearly everyone, that I felt compelled to share my experience. We met in Tennessee. I was 22, and she was 27, finishing her last year of nursing school, while I was completing my military service. We both earned extra money delivering pizzas. We clicked instantly, and after one memorable night, our friendship blossomed into something more. She took the initiative, and I responded enthusiastically. At the end of my time in the Army, I took her to dinner and proposed. I was completely captivated by her at that time. The first year of our marriage was wonderful. I got along well with her family, and mine adore her. We were inseparable. But in the second year, things began to change. I was balancing a full-time job with night classes in civil engineering. I tried to make our time together special and romantic, but it was undeniable that we shared fewer moments. I felt her distancing herself and losing interest in me. So, I dropped out of school. I decided that my marriage was a priority, convincing myself I could always return to university later. But the situation didn't improve. I discovered something about her. She was like a child who quickly grows bored with her toys and looks for a new one. I try to keep her interested, to rekindle the excitement, gifts, getaways, different forms of romance. But it was like trying to bail water out of a sinking ship. She contributed little in support or encouragement. It was exhausting trying to save a relationship on my own. Then the signs of infidelity began. This will sound familiar to many of you. Extreme protectiveness of her phone and laptop, more frequent absences from home, a total withdrawal from intimacy. Her affection evaporated, and even my hugs and kisses were met with coldness. I've read similar stories on this forum. It's as if unfaithful partners don't want to cheat on their lover with their spouse. I knew what was happening and was determined to uncover the truth. We lived in a state of guilt, but she covered her tracks well, so I couldn't prove anything. I think she noticed that I was disconnecting from the marriage. All my attempts to initiate affection, or even just talk to her, ceased. Later, in tears, she admitted to having an inappropriate relationship with a coworker. She swore it was never physical. She made numerous promises and apologies. I had never heard the term trickle truth before coming here, but I suspect I was served a hot plate of it, with a side of blaming others. I wanted to work on us. I sought counseling for both of us. I believed her. Or, at least I chose to believe her. My heart and my reason were out of sync. We went to couples therapy for a few weeks. That seemed to make her uncomfortable because the therapist asked very pointed questions about the inappropriate relationship. I think she suspected, as I did, that there was more at stake. She stopped attending after 4 sessions, but we seemed to be improving. It was almost as if I had my old wife back. I felt very optimistic and decided to leave my unconfirmed suspicions behind. This phase lasted about 6 months until the cycle began to repeat itself. She showed all the signs again. I confronted her on 2 occasions. She attributed it to stress on her part or immaturity on mine, an argument she loved to use due to our age difference. For my part, intimacy stopped between us as she lost all interest in both it and me. And then it happened. I came home early one day and found her sitting on our bed, crying. I sat with her and almost begged her to talk to me. She confessed that she was pregnant. For a brief moment, I felt joy. Then, my mind began processing the information. I suddenly remembered how long it had been since our last intimate encounter. I asked her how far along she was. 8 weeks. It had been more than 4 months since our last time together. I got up and left the room. She followed me. Reflecting now and comparing the conversation that followed with the experiences of others here, It amazes me how all unfaithful spouses say the same thing. It was only that one time. It didn't mean anything. I've only ever loved you. Of all the lies they tell, the last one hurts the most. I told her to leave for an hour, then I would listen to what she had to say. I was shaking with rage. Honestly, it probably wouldn't have ended well for either of us if I had stayed. I drove to an empty parking lot and sobbed uncontrollably, literally. Something inside me broke that hour. My heart died, froze, and still hasn't thawed to this day. When I returned home, I was cold and emotionless. I didn't need to pretend indifference. I had turned to stone. She insisted that we could get through this. She mentioned how happy she had seen me when she initially told me, before I fully understood. She brought up our plans to start a family and used the baby's innocence as an argument, saying how he or she would need a father. This continued for almost 20 minutes, while I watched her in complete emotional silence. Finally, she looked at me and asked me to please say something. I replied that she was asking for reconciliation, but almost all of her words were lies. I told her that if she wanted me to even consider it, she needed to start by telling me the truth, the full version of the story. I wanted to know if it had been the same lover all along, even from the previous year. I needed her to admit it had always been only physical, that she never loved him and that she loved me. I needed her to admit he wasn't interested in having a relationship with her, that it was purely physical. He was pressuring her to terminate the pregnancy, but she refused. She wanted a family, and she wanted it with me. I informed her that our marriage was over. It had ended a year and a half ago, but I was just now finding out. I asked her to pack what she needed for 3 days and to leave. She refused to go. She kept trying to talk to me normally. Her tears would have broken my resolve, but that night, I looked at her and felt nothing. The part of me that loved her had died. I took refuge in the guest room and locked the door. The next day, I consulted with several lawyers and hired one. The paternity of the child was more than enough evidence for a fault-based divorce. I didn't want to wait that long, so we opted for an uncontested divorce through mediation. Upon returning home, she actually tried to be intimate with me. I was stunned and disgusted. I made it clear that would never happen again. We agreed on the terms of the divorce. Our biggest asset was the house, and most of our debt was her student loan. I relinquished my share of the property so she could sell it. She was going to keep the baby, and I wanted her to have that money. I wanted nothing more than to walk away with no ties. In the end, I only kept my Jeep, my military duffel bag with clothes, some tools, weapons, and military memorabilia, mainly things that were mine before we got married. Everything in that house, everything she had touched, felt contaminated to me. I didn't want anything from this marriage, except to bury it in the past. The divorce was finalized 13 months later. I saw her twice during mediation, and we barely exchanged words. She was heavily pregnant at the time. I thought it would be difficult to see her like that, but I felt nothing, no love, no hate, nothing. She was a stranger to me. I moved to Florida and got a job as a public servant, poorly paid, but also undemanding. I now lead a very simple life. I bought and renovated a small house on the Gulf Coast. I bought a boat and go fishing almost every weekend. I have few friends and have dated very little. I have trust issues now. I don't really enjoy the company of others and am wary of attention from women, especially those I find attractive. I'm currently 27 years old. I'm in excellent physical shape, and some girls find me attractive, but the idea of having an intimate relationship with someone, of trusting them at that level, I don't think I can do it, not for a long time at least. I am the opposite of the man I used to be in almost every way. All my affection is now reserved for a cheerful black Labrador retriever named Storm. She accompanies me almost everywhere. I'm not exactly happy. I still get disturbed when something reminds me of my ex and everything that happened. Sometimes I experience a sense of overwhelming loss. I know I haven't lost anything because I didn't really have anything, but I can't control how I feel. The advantage of my job is that I mostly work alone and outdoors, and I can often take my dog with me. If I haven't found happiness in post-divorce life, at least I've found peace. I'm content with that. Last week, the past I thought I had buried 2 years ago contacted me by phone. I don't know how she got my information, but it couldn't have been too difficult. I wasn't exactly hidden. We talked for an hour. At first, it was cordial, and she gave the impression that she just wanted to know how I was doing and catch up. But the real reason for the call was to explore the possibility of some kind of reconnection. She had given birth to a healthy girl 2 years ago. The paternity was never in doubt, considering the timing. The lover wasn't present at the birth and has had little interaction with his daughter. Single motherhood is complicated, and although she received financial support from him, apparently, she had to take him to court for it. She was alone and unhappy. I expressed that I was sorry to hear she was unhappy, but it wasn't my problem. I told her that she had broken my heart, and it was still broken. I bluntly told her that I didn't love her, couldn't love anyone, and didn't want anything to do with her. I explained that she had made all the decisions for us, herself, for me, and for her daughter. But she had only left me with one option, to walk away from her. I asked her not to contact me again. The common pattern among all our stories in this forum is this: a selfish person made a selfish decision and damaged the lives of 3 people, one of whom hadn't even been born. Even if I could make unfaithful partners understand one thing before they make that selfish choice, it would be that they are hurting everyone around them and possibly everyone around their lover. But if they're already selfish enough to cheat, they probably don't care. A few weeks ago, I shared my story here. In the 3 years since our separation and divorce, I've built a new life for myself. However, it has been a long, lonely existence, lacking in friendships and trust. After reading and talking with many of you, I realized that I shouldn't be giving her so much control over my life. You were right, I thought I was living my new life on my own terms, but I wasn't. By remaining closed off and distrustful, I was still paying an emotional debt that wasn't even mine to pay. When I left my failed marriage behind, I claimed I wasn't taking anything with me. That wasn't entirely true. I still had my wedding ring. I don't know why I kept it for so long. I had it in a cigar box along with other mementos. I didn't attach any emotional significance to the ring, but in retrospect, I wonder if its mere presence in my home drained any positive energy I might have been generating. The day before yesterday, my dog Storm and I went grouper fishing in the Gulf. December 31st was the last day of the season. On impulse, I brought my wedding ring with me. I threw it into the Gulf of Mexico. It now rests at the bottom of Escambia Sound, about 15 miles east of Longboat Key. When that little gold band plunged into the calm, turquoise waters, I felt as if I had been released from an immense burden, like an anchor. That ring sank, taking that emotional baggage down into the sandy bottom, about 70 feet down. You were all right, it is not enough to survive infidelity and divorce. It's time to live again. I've started dating again, a local girl I had casually run into. We attended a party together last night and had a great time. I am grateful to you. Your comments and private messages made me aware of something I didn't even realize in myself. For newcomers just starting this journey, pay attention to the advice you'll receive in this forum. These people have traveled where you are now. Don't invest too much time mourning what you think you've lost. That grief is a burden you carry for no reason. The people you are enduring it for betrayed you. Freedom begins the moment you understand that all you have to do is let it go. It's time to live again. For the last 3 years, I've avoided pursuing dating or relationships. Finally, I decided to open myself up to the possibility of finding love again, and I started dating. I've been seeing a girl a year younger than me. She's never been married. Things have been going pretty well, and we've been getting more serious, having conversations about the relationship. It was during one of those talks that she dropped an unexpected revelation on me. She confessed that she was very interested in polyamorous relationships and that she could never be satisfied with just one partner. I hate to admit it, but I needed that concept explained to me. That's how uninformed or just plain old-fashioned I am. She explained that we could have multiple partners as long as it was only physical, and we always came back to each other for the emotional bond. First of all, I thanked her for her candor about it. When these things are kept secret, they become a problem. So, I commended her for her honesty. I expressed that I was very attracted to her, enjoyed her company, and would be happy to be one of her companions in the short term. But as far as building a lasting relationship, we'd both be better off looking in another direction. She stated that she was very sorry because she really liked me, but she understood my position. It was a pretty surreal conversation for me. I feel like a dinosaur. Are there still women who want faithful men? Or is that concept obsolete? My wife had an affair, and my next girlfriend wanted to arrange a double date with her and another guy. I shared my story in this forum last year. If you'd like to read it, you can find it on my profile. Surprisingly, someone even uploaded it to YouTube. But the abridged version is that my wife, once beloved, now ex, carried on an intermittent affair for a year and a half. That culminated in her becoming pregnant with her lover's child. When the secret could no longer be hidden, she told me that it could be our baby, and we could raise it together. She said other things, how sorry she was, and that it would never happen again. There was only one possible response to all that, and today marks 3 years since my decision. I'm okay. I rarely think about her. Actually, I'm not sad. I'm not particularly happy either. The truth is, these days, I'm just okay. I guess I'm fine. I can't really describe it any other way, and this is the thing I'm really wrestling with because everyone tells me I'm not. My sister and her best friend came to visit me in Florida before school started. They're both starting at the University of Memphis this year. I'm so proud of her. They spent 2 days at my house before heading to Tampa. We had a conversation while they were here, and she expressed her concern for me. She's convinced I haven't gotten over everything that happened. She said I seem so different now. She barely recognized me. They commandeered my phone and started looking for matches for me. They initiated conversations with 2 women and then told me about it, insisting that I continue the chats after they left. I deleted everything and then lied about it. I feel bad about that, but I really don't want her to worry. I want her to know I'm okay. I'm close friends with my boss and his wife. She insists that it's not healthy for me to be alone all the time and that I would make a wonderful partner. She's tried to set me up with friends, but I'm just not interested. So, I ended up telling her that I'm seeing someone. I hate lying about that and I truly appreciate her concern, but I'm okay. I really am. I've had 2 brief relationships and 1 casual encounter since my divorce. The casual encounter turned out that the girl was married. I was furious. I let her know exactly how I felt about her being in a relationship. We just weren't compatible. The other one faded away through indifference, mostly on my part. I'm just not comfortable in intimate situations with other people. I'm not interested in a relationship. Maybe I just don't have anything to offer. I'm different from how I used to be. I used to be gregarious and outgoing, but now I'm not so much. Is it a bad thing that I've changed? I can still form emotional bonds. I adore my sister like crazy. I love my dog. My dog is amazing. She's my best friend, fishing buddy, and partner in crime. She's the best thing that ever happened to me. But in social situations, I now feel awkward and clumsy. I just want to leave. Is that normal? I don't know. I feel most at ease on the boat, offshore in the Gulf, where you lose sight of the coast under an open sky, with nobody within 20 miles. I'm not unfeeling. I just don't get emotional. I don't really get angry, sad, or joyful. I'm just okay all the time. Maybe that's very different from the old me, but is it bad? There are a lot of people on this forum who have survived infidelity. How are you all doing? Are you okay? Do people tell you that you're not? How do they know? Betrayal leaves us different from how it found us. Who we were before isn't who we are after. That doesn't seem difficult to understand, does it? The people who question us are worried about us, I know, and we appreciate them for it. But we really are okay. Update 4. My divorce was finalized 4 years ago today. I don't think about it much anymore. I loved my wife. She was the love of my life. I say that almost mechanically now. Sometimes I don't even remember what that felt like. There are times when I can't even conjure her face. She was supposed to be the most important person in my world, and now it's been only 41 months since I last saw her, and sometimes I can't even recall her features. The night she revealed her terrible secret, that she'd been having an affair and was expecting his child, I remember vividly. She'd rebuffed every overture of affection for me for months. I suppose I shouldn't have been surprised. The red flags were there. I knew it, but I refused to acknowledge it. I've posted on Reddit about the events leading up to that night and the aftermath before. I don't really think about it much, and I talk about it even less. But tonight, being the 4th anniversary, I guess I'm reliving it. That doesn't make me sad, or anything. Maybe I'd be better off if it did. That night felt like the whole world fell silent. All the voices and sounds were dampened in my mind to a distant hum. At the same time, everything became crystal clear to me. The future, the present, the past. It all transformed into an inexorable succession of events leading to an inevitable conclusion. The wife I loved was gone. The life I yearned for was lost. It didn't even exist. It was all over, and now there was just the mundane business of waiting for the process to end. I didn't even raise my voice. I wasn't even angry. I just felt numb. I simply informed her that it was over and I would be starting divorce proceedings. 2 weeks later, I was gone. Even now, remembering it, it brings no anger, no pain, no anguish, no longing, just emptiness. The lesson I take from all this is that the world is an ephemeral place. Everything passes. Even the things that seem so crucial in the moment are just transitory. Just let them go. Love the people. It all passes through us like a train in the night, with us for a brief instant, then disappearing into the distance. Don't hold on to what is lost. Accept that it's gone and let it go. Holding on to what is no longer is vanity, and it only hurts you. Update 5. I now have a new life in a different state, and I feel like I'm doing okay. But my family and friends insist that I might need help because my personality is drastically different from the man I used to be. I acknowledge there's some truth to that. I used to be more cheerful and outgoing. Now, I simply prefer the company of my dog. I don't cultivate friendships, I haven't dated much, and I generally prefer to keep to my own space. But I don't feel like there's anything wrong with me. I went through a traumatic event, yes, but it makes sense that the equilibrium you find yourself in afterward might be very different from the place you were in before, doesn't it? My sister visited a few months ago, and after 3 days, she was pleading with me to get help. I did start individual therapy. Some of the therapist's recommendations have seemed on point, but this whole thing seems to be heading toward an abyss. One of the first questions she asked me was, "When was the last time you felt truly happy or sad?" I had to think for a moment and realized it had been a long time. The last time I really experienced any intense emotion was the night my marriage ended. Since then, I've just been okay. After discussing it over several sessions, she diagnosed me with flat affect and is referring me to a psychiatrist and a neurologist. She's also suggesting psychoactive medication that, according to some online research, has some undesirable side effects and is quite costly.